Hello, welcome to BVP Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Cartwright, and today I'm here with
James Dristas, principal at the high school.
And Dr. Poenitzsch, superintendent here in Bellville ISD.
Alrighty, we got our first reoccurring guest, Mr. Dristas and Dr. Poenitzsch for the first time. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me back.
Excited to be here.
Couldn't have enough of you, Mr. Dristas.
No.
Don't have enough of you. Had to get you back here.
Good stuff.
Questions this time are a lot more, as you can imagine, career-based and a lot more based around the school district, and just stuff that happens inside of it, and questions students, parents, or just people looking from the outside might have on it. So
Gotcha.
Any questions you don't feel like answering or maybe aren't appropriate for the current conversation, just feel free. You could just say pass.
Okay.
All right. So we're just going to get on into it. How do you party people feel about it?
Ready to go?
Ready to
Oh, you guys look just absolutely excited to be on today.
Excited
I don't
to be
know.
here.
All right. What are the main goals for Bellville ISD for the next school year? Like, is there anything major that will be changing, added, taken away, or maybe improved on?
Yeah. So to be honest, we've done a lot of foundational work for the last 5 years, but we are in the process of planning for our 2024 through 2029 strategic plan. And so that will all kick off this coming school year. We're not planning on changing any of the big foundational pieces, really just continuing to grow and build upon what already exists. The one big thing coming that I'm super jazzed about is our learner portfolio. So I don't know how many people are completely aware of the work that we've been doing, but for about 2 years, we've been working to develop a software platform. So we actually owned intellectual property rights for this, and we had a corporate partner and a grant sponsor us. And so with our corporate partnership, we did transfer intellectual property rights to the company because they're partnering with us to develop it. But what it is this super cool tool. So our mission is to connect kids with what their passions and interests are so that they can use those skills, use those passions in their futures, right? Our whole mission is empowering students by connecting them to their strengths and interests. But what we started to ask ourselves was, how do you do that if you don't really know who our kids are? There's so much information that gets lost from one teacher to the next or one school year to the next. And there's so many things that happen with kids in their process of school, goals and work that they do and things that they're super proud of that parents don't even necessarily get to see unless there's the extra time and effort and connections to like give them that window into the world. And so this platform puts all that we can possibly know about kids into a space where all of the students, teachers can view it. The student has ownership and can view it. The parent has ownership and can view it. And so we start to get this picture of like who a kid is from pre-K through 12th grade of what did they want to be when they grow up in 2nd grade? Did that change over time in 4th and 5th grade? What are their interests over time? What are their goals over time? What are their career aspirations? And how can we connect them to opportunities for that to become a reality? Sorry, I know I'm kind of long-winded on this one, but I'm super, super, super excited about it because again, back to our mission, we say we partner with parents, students, and staff to cultivate relevant learning. So I feel like this tool is going to help us, one, create that partnership because it gives more people access to the insights that we need to have about our kids to truly try to work to connect them to what they're interested in. And then actually the student owns it when they leave. So they have the ability to like take all this as an electronic briefcase and use it as their platform to showcase themselves to the world and whatever they want to pursue. So they'll have an electronic portfolio of all of their learning, interest, goals, growth, personal and academic work samples from kindergarten through 12th grade once we get it up and running. So the product development is still underway. We'll finish that in June or July and look to implement with students and staff in September, introduce it to parents in October, and then really work toward use with fidelity the rest of the school year.
That's awesome. I had no idea that was under development. So basically like a giant like resume since you were in kindergarten of all of your education you've gone through and everything that you've excelled at, maybe not excelled at, stuff that you've overcome in education, stuff like that.
Yeah, and personal stuff too. So we've had student input along the way, and staff have met weekly now with the software company. And one of the kids put it as like, with the work samples, like, oh, this is all the stuff that like my mom puts in the tub that we keep in the attic or sticks on the refrigerator. but you don't lose it over time. So even like, your 7th grade science teacher could look back and see what was your 4th grade science project that you were most proud of, and just kind of understand that learning journey a little bit better without losing it from person to person or year to year.
Kind of like a time capsule that you never really lose.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Do you have anything, Mr. Dristas?
You know how you start off like the school year with the interest inventory as you do with like your teachers? Like, I'll give you that separate one. This will already have it in there. Like, so you'll update it, of course, but every teacher might already know who you are before you even end the room.
You won't have to start that new one. You have that one that you've been working on since kindergarten.
So I've been part of the process since it started. And right now, on those we meet on Fridays, they're called sprint reviews. And right now, it's just technical jargon, and I don't know what they're talking about. But I mean, they've seen like the rough draft of it, and once we go through it, it's going to be a pretty phenomenal project, and I think you're going to like it a lot.
Oh, definitely. Even if I'm not in part of it, one day if I have kids or something, I would love to be able to look through them like that through my kids. Like, be like kind of like how my dad felt about the student portal and the parent portal. How that first came in, it was like he'd have to wait a month to know like the final of all my grades at a moment. But now he could just check. Now he could just log in off of his phone when it's working for him and just check it.
It's great.
But I think that's great for the student portfolio. That has a lot of impact, especially when you leave high school, even if you don't go into college or something like that. That's something that
Right there for you.
Right there for you. And haven't even started working yet even. You already have a resume with detailed information about you and what your strengths and weaknesses are.
For sure.
So on to the next question, because that last one I really did like the answer to. What are you trying to accomplish as the superintendent of Bellville ISD?
Okay, so this is going to sound really weird, but if I could put it in like the simplest form, it's turning caterpillars into butterflies. So here's my thought process behind this. So who would have ever thought, like, take away all your background knowledge, who would have ever thought that this fuzzy little worm would one day grow wings and fly? Like, right, you don't just randomly see a fuzzy little worm and be like, oh, it's going to have wings and fly. And when you expand that to the idea of the butterfly concept, which is like the smallest flutter of a butterfly's wings could cause a tsunami across the world. And it's really the intricacy of all the small things that we do and how they compound into these big things. But that's what we're trying to accomplish. Is I truly feel like every human has this specialness in them. And our job as educators is to help, not for us to find it for them, but for us to help students find what's that special thing within themselves, and then create the conditions where they can grow wings and use that to positively impact the world around them. So yeah, and like concretely what that means, like that's the philosophical vision of what we're trying to accomplish. But concretely what that really means is we've kind of taken the approach of exposure at the elementary level, like trying to expose kids to as much as possible. So someone who may think like, oh, I'm a really artsy person, still wanting them to do like STEM activities or, music or PE or things that they may not know that they're interested in or be good at. So exposure at the elementary level, exploration at the junior high. So that's why we have like the intro to exploring pathways. And that's actually kind of why we require that students can't pick just one exploring pathway. Like whatever they do in 7th grade, they have to do something different in 8th grade because it's still the exploration. And then the goal is in high school that you really develop that expertise, that like you kind of narrowed into, you've been exposed to a lot of things, you've explored a lot of things, you kind of know where your passion is, and you develop that expertise, to be honest, to where you're doing things like this. That's like crazy cool and amazing that y'all are producing a podcast with talents that you have, but that's the goal. I mean, that you have this experience then within the comfort of the learning journey to, if it's something you want to pursue after high school, like you kind of have some courage. You've like, failed forward in a safe space or succeeded and found out what works. And then you can use that knowledge to be amazing when you're independent and on your own.
Absolutely. Speaking on the skill part of going in from junior high into high school, I really agree with that, because junior high, you really have no clue what you want to do. You're still a little kid. In your own mind, you're still playing Pokemon cards and you're still playing in the outside with your friends, like the little mud child you are.
Yeah.
But at the same time, once you break out of 8th grade, there's more expectations that are assumed of you. As soon as you hit freshman, yeah, you're still in that like 8th grade to like high school stage, but you're a freshman now. There's no going back. You're just getting older from here forward.
Yeah.
So high school really is that fine hone, like to sharpen your skills and understand what you want.
Yeah. And I really feel like I love that point that you made, because I really feel like high school is where it starts to be like what choices you do or don't make. impact what opportunities are or aren't available at the next step. Like up until that point, not so much, but once you start to kind of pick your courses and path in high school, that's really what kind of determines like what all opportunities are accessible when you walk across the stage.
And it's scary, especially whenever you're someone who like just told like, this is where you choose. This is where you start thinking about what you want to do for possibly the rest of your life. And you're like, the rest of my life? I barely even started it.
Yeah.
It's hard to think.
It is. Well, the good news there is like most research right now says that any profession requires reskilling every 4 years. And so if you ever in the future decide to kind of shift paths, it's a little different than, traditionally like so what research will say is like back in the 1980s, it was like whatever skill you developed that was expected to get you through a 30-year career. And now, and like, I guess we're Gen Z, I don't know what comes after Z, just something. It's really expected that people pursue multiple careers. It's not the kind of 30 or 10-year expectation anymore because there is kind of this gig economy and it's really more of a creative economy where you can create what your profession is going to be. Like there's so much independence accessible through technology now, but with that comes then if there's constant reskilling and you ever decide like the path I picked isn't the one that I want to be on, then you have the opportunity to change course. The pressure's off.
Yeah, I'll go ahead.
Not too much pressure, just a creative world out there.
Yeah.
Something. How about you, Mr. Dristas? Do you have any accomplishments as superintendent that you want to?
Well, I have to be a superintendent first, but I'm fine being the principal for where I'm at. Really, I just want to push our kids to make the best decisions that fit what they need, where their talents at, where their skills at, what direction are they going to go in. And if they're not in the right field, we'll try something else next semester. We're in the May of the school year, so I'm doing a bunch of like spotlights and talking to a bunch of seniors and talking what they're going to do. And one of the things I ask them is like, what is your advice for freshmen? And they almost all of them have put, take freshman year seriously and get your credits right and do your grades, what you want to do, and choose the right path you want to go on. There's lots of options out there, but they always say, make sure you choose the right path because it'll mean a lot after 4 years. A lot of our kids take now like late arrival or early release. I think with all this new stuff coming in, there's not going to be as much as that taken. They're going to be taking stuff like AV or culinary arts or stuff like that later on. So our seniors are really giving good advice to freshmen when they come up. So my job is to make sure they listen to it.
I guess the only advice I could give would just don't be scared.
Yeah, absolutely.
Trying to be scared. You'll be all right.
So I'm gonna push him on this one a little bit. So 3 or 4 years ago, you and I had a conversation about like what are your aspirations as an educational leader, and you told me then when you were the assistant principal that you wanted to have the opportunity to stand on the stage as the principal and shake students' hands and hand them their diplomas. And so when you ask the question of like what is something you're most proud of as a principal, I do want to ask like, is that experience what you envisioned it to be?
And more. It's pretty neat because you're seeing kids coming across that stage that you didn't think would make it. You're dealing with some kids that you may have seen in your office for various reasons, and it's just it's cool when you can shake their hand, and it's cool when you can take their picture and be like, congratulations, you made it, and give them a pat on the back and then move on to the next kiddo. But some of the kids are going to make it, and they're awesome kids and they've got a great future ahead of them, but some of them are like, you made it, let's go, let's do something with it. So it's a pretty awesome experience. It really is.
I heard a story from Miss Mark a long time ago in junior high about this really rough, tough cast of she had a real rough, tough class of all boys, and they were just kind of like delinquent, hooligan kind of boys. They didn't want to do theater, they didn't want to do anything, they just wanted to talk, they just wanted to horseplay and stuff like that. But they ended up doing this really kind of serious, I think it was like a play about kids in juvie and kids who weren't with their family because they were in juvie.
Yeah.
And she just said that they had it lit something in them. It sparked something in them to where they just the best performance that she has like ever seen out of a young class of middle school students. And that's always stuck with me because it really shows that it doesn't matter who the person might seem like and even who they make themselves come out to be. Everybody has a goal and aspiration and desire, and they're going to eventually, they're going to stop wanting to mess around and they're going to want to reach that goal and aspiration.
Yeah. So honestly, that comes back to the butterfly concept for me. So one of my favorite quotes is, the more you love what you do, the more successful it will be for you. And that whole concept of ignition, of if you can figure out what someone's passionate about, if you can figure out what lights them up, what they get jazzed about, what ignites them, then that creates purpose and path. And so that whole idea, like y'all were both just kind of talking about, of like, when you care about what you're doing, then it helps you make positive choices to be constructive. So that's honestly the whole idea, the whole mission of figuring out what ignites people so that they are fulfilled and compelled to be a positive contributor.
I see a lot of similarities to superintendent, principal, vice principal, whatever, to therapists in a way. They just want to see you succeed.
Yeah.
It's true. They just want to see you succeed and be the best version of you that you can be.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing more that they want just to see you, succeed. They want to see you do good. They don't want you to, their reason they're always telling you, like, your grades up, we're going to change you over to this class because it's going to be easier for you. We're going to maybe put you into this program that will help you with certain things you're lacking. They're not doing that because they hate you.
Yeah.
Not doing that because they're angry at you. They're doing that because, if they're lacking in this, then they might need that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. Here's another question for you guys. How do you intend to increase parent and community involvement in the district?
Great question. I'm gonna let you take that one first.
That's a hard that's a hard question to answer.
You are the one that hears from parents a lot.
I do hear from parents a lot. Not all the time.
Oh, they're there.
Sometimes they get diverted to my assistant principals, which they do a great job dealing with those. But no, we would love to have as much parent input as we could. We would love to have parent interaction all the time. A lot of times at the high school, it's tough because there's not a PTO. There's not a parent organization, whereas they may have that at the intermediate school or the junior high or elementary school. But really, as long as we try to put it out there through social media, and if parents want to reach out and help us out, that's great. But as far as getting more parents involved, it's just a crapshoot as to who you're going to get there. We can have our stuff for next year, when we're planning for next year and the kids' events are coming up. We may only have a handful of parents even show up to that stuff. So, people are busy. Food always works. We can always bring in some food aspects of it. But the draw to get parents in all the time, to get their feedback all the time, it's still kind of a mystery to me, but we're working towards it. The more parents, like I said, the more parents we can get, the better.
I remember, I want to say about a bit in the second semester when they started having us sign up to our next year classes I remember Mr. Holloman came in and we switched over away from the state grading way of grading our school to a self-sufficient grading system, which I really thought was cool.
Right.
Because I also had my parents doing everything, and it was just an honest survey of how you feel, how things are going, and not just grade-wise, how they going, how is it going mentally for people too, how is the environment, how do you feel about your classwork environment, stuff like that. And I thought that was a really interesting thing because
very happy you paid attention to that.
Thank you, because I did like that because, I've been staying here since all the way back in Houston where my parents okay, we got to find a new elementary school. Well, let's look down the grading period, C, 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 D, and stuff like that. And it was never good. It just kind of made you feel bad about where you putting your kid to school.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I agree with it extremely. My parents do too, that the best way to just, if you have a question for the school, just ask.
Just ask.
Because the worst thing that can happen is they don't have an answer or they can't tell you.
We'll find out for you, though.
So I think on the involvement part too, kind of a twofold approach. So one, I think the learner portfolio is going to help with that a lot because it will give parents a live, easy access window into what their kids are doing. So like I said, it will have academic goal setting, even personal goal setting of what is my personal goal this year, and then updating progress. And parents will be able to see all of that and work samples. So not just parent portal where you see the grades on the assignments, but actually having work samples. And I think parents having insight into students' goals that they're working on 8 hours a day with their teachers will be insightful to connect them into that process. So I think that's one way to get parents more involved I don't know if that makes any sense. It's not a action. It's just part of the partnership from a deeper level of awareness. So that's one. But then two, I think there are students too. That's my whole goal, is this idea of student ownership, because I do think parents get excited about things that their kids are involved in and what their kids are doing. So I would imagine that y'all's parents are going to watch this podcast, right? And I hope, even with the existence of this building here in the middle of the community, our goal is to get more engaged in all of the community events that happen. So like the things around the square, even to host some things like that. Like what I can't wait to see is arts and appetizers. And we have musicians, and we have our actors, and we have an art display from elementary through high school artwork on showcase. And our culinary class is doing the food for that. And our graphic design class and our AV class is doing the advertisements for all of that. And then you have parents and community all come in, because I think when it's about kids, it's like crazy, super cool and special. And so my hope is the more that we can do things that allow kids to have ownership and showcase what they're proud of and passionate about, the more you bring in parents and community to be part of that and be excited about that. So we've done a little bit of that this year, but the goal is always then to continue to not always necessarily do more. More isn't always better, but like do better, make it more meaningful, more purposeful, and do that in increments until it becomes this thing where like we're part of the heartbeat of our community.
I've noticed that because I can compare from freshman year and now, Bellville High School has completely changed. Because from when I first started, it was Chef Doucette, the previous culinary teacher, and Mr. Gutierrez, who was the previous audiovisual teacher. And it was very,
Just move it a little bit.
Troublemakers.
But yeah, I remember culinary used to be in the high school in a room just full of a bunch of ovens. I remember, and we didn't get a lot of baking done in that class period because it was hard to manage all that. It was hard to keep up because also the where all the cooking stuff was, it was usually had to be something like cookies where you can make like a lot of ingredients for it and make it stretch out through a lot of people. But now, and especially I don't even want to talk about the old audiovisual department. I was in the computer lab. I still have nightmares on trying to load up my projects on those old computers.
We're very blessed to have what we have now.
Oh yeah, we have come very, very, very far. Even though we can come much, much farther every step at a time. You don't want to go too many steps ahead of yourself or else you'll fall back over and have to start over.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So I think the best part about it is, I guess, bringing people in, but at the same time, don't do too much.
Right.
Because at the same time, and one of the big things that's going to bring people in is just other people doing it, and the word just spreads out slowly.
Yeah.
Because I know definitely from my house, it's gone from, I'll be home a little early today, I'm not feeling good, to I'll be home around 6.
Yeah.
I got wires and other sparks and put together an AV.
No, that's good though. I'm glad you found your niche.
That's awesome.
Everybody needs their niche. Just keeps life a little more interesting to have something extra to do.
For sure.
Let's see. What strategies are being employed to close achievement gaps among student groups?
A hard-hitting question.
Good one.
Yeah.
So from the STEM.
Did you come up with that?
No. I'm just a pretty face, right?
Okay, gotcha.
But from STEM programs to Miss Newton's help and involvement to all the way to the physical rehabilitation program, what part do you see really closing that gap, or where can it be filled in more?
So I would say twofold, honestly. And I always am twofold on everything. One day I might go like 3 or just give you one answer. So on the academic side of things, one of the things that I'm so grateful that we've gotten, the right leaders in the right places to kind of really have an academic approach. And then our teachers have been crazy amazing at like learning, growing, implementing. So we really have become learner-centered in terms of knowing more about where our kids are and how to monitor their progress as they grow, and how to like regroup every week of, are we seeing growth? Are we not seeing growth? If we're not, what do we need to do to, pour more in? And if we are, how do we accelerate forward? Really kind of through data. And I know data sounds like data, but it's really just for us to know where it's not like guessing at the end of the year, hey, who knows what, and how did we score, and how are we going to fix it next year? But we know throughout the year. And the reason I relate that to closing gaps is because if you don't know where kids are, you don't even know what gaps to close or what deficiencies we have. And so kind of having this data culture is what we call it, and being really learner-centered, and our teachers getting into this cadence of meeting every week to like look at our academic progress, look at our data, figure out what kids we need to intervene with to promote more targeted growth. What kids do we need to, enhance and kind of push forward if they've got the concept? So I think that's one thing on the academic side. You were mentioning like STEM and other programs and closing those gaps. And I think, again, that comes to trying to figure out like how to get kids into an area where they're interested, because I think if they find the area that they're interested in, I don't want to say the gap closes by default, but it's kind of just that level of ownership. Yeah. Like if I care about it, then I pour more into it and then I perform better. And we do still have a gap. Like we have multiple kids who don't quite know what pathway fits yet. And so we are starting this year. It's called like career exploration, or I don't know what the official title is, but it's kind of the class of like, if I don't know what I want to do or what pathway I'm in, and I'm not really into like the ones that are currently being offered or the one that I took last year, it's a career exploration where it goes through like all the things, like even just living skills, how to like boil water, wash clothes, change a tire, check oil. But then like a plethora of careers and possibilities to hopefully then students enrolled in that class will be better equipped to kind of find where they want to settle and what they want to become part of.
Idea.
I agree completely, especially with the part where you were talking about, like, again, the butterfly effect with the with opening up and slowly just kind of like find that hyper focus and what like finally catches your interest in school. Because some kids will get it from a really young age, from being a core class to maybe something like theater, music, or computer design or something like me. Like for me, it never hit till high school because, well, put simply, I was a dyslexic kid in the Texas school program. I didn't have a chance to be in with. But over the years, it kind of just put you in that little bowl where you just kind of like, I don't care anymore. You just shut down around. But eventually, I got out of that and I found something that I actually am like interested in and kind of makes me like, okay, I want to go now. I want to go for this. I want to become better and make my grades better and do better in school because I have something to look forward to now.
Yeah.
I have something that's driving me to go, because I feel like that's one of the major things you're lacking in school. If you aren't a big fan of school like me growing up, and you aren't really like one of those people who really enjoys class or is good even at curricular activities and stuff like that, then the best thing is to find one thing you really enjoy and then to focus on that, and then slowly everything else gets a little bit easier.
I might need you to be our convocation
That's good.
What you just said, like, oh my goodness, it just warmed my heart.
You got me thinking, like, how did you get right here? Who put you right here?
Who got me in?
Yeah, who got you interested in right here? Teacher, student. I mean, who put you right there?
Well, Percival would love to hear that, and Colson would love to hear that.
Right.
They got them set up.
Well, what got you into this AV alone?
What got me into AV?
Yeah. Was it just a course on your schedule and you just liked it, or was it?
I did like the course on my schedule, but I've always had a passion for art and fine-tuning and designs, and that probably leads all the way back to my grandmother. She was one of the top 50 Japanese artists in Houston. She took a lot of classes. She's not Japanese. She just took a lot of Asian art classes, fine paintings and stuff like that. And she always told me that it's always the fine details that you'll go back later and go, God, I missed that. It's always the fine details that you're like, I need to put something more here. I needed something more to add here. I feel like I'm missing something. But as soon as you step back for a second and add those fine details, you'll go back later and say, I did a fine work.
I like it. I like it.
That's exactly. So I have one more questions for you guys. You guys have been great so far.
Okay.
I think I'm going to skip down, just do the last questions for funds.
Okay.
What is the district doing to promote financial aid and scholarship opportunities for students? So students leaving high school going into college, what is there to look for them? What are they looking forward to?
Sure. Well, you may not know this yet. Most of our seniors know that even if you go to our counselors page, there's a plethora of scholarship availability. We really do hope that everybody fills that stuff out, because we're looking at scholarships right now. Ms. Bustamante is our registrar, and she's in charge of getting all that stuff together and doing the program for that. But there's lots of kids that don't take advantage of that. I know there's a couple scholarships out there that nobody even wrote something for. Only one person did. So, I mean, yeah, they wrote it, but were they the best candidate for it? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But they're getting the award because they took the time to do it. So just know that that's out there. Hopefully hopefully people take advantage of it next year. We get a lot more applicants for it. The FAFSA, all that stuff, we're teamed up with Texas AgriLife, RSSI. They do come in and they provide lots of services throughout the year. We'll make announcements and whatnot. They can come in and work through FAFSA with you. They have parent nights. They provide a lot of food. But there's two people that come in and really work with us on that, and they help us get what kids need as far as like financial aid is available.
Are they the people that come in around the same time as the people that come in with all the Leathermans and senior rings and stuff?
No, they're separate.
Okay, because I know a lot of senior stuff happens towards the end of the year with stuff like that.
But they even start with some juniors and seniors. So I mean, they'll start with their juniors. And
I forgot the name of the program. The what do you want to do for your future and career program that I've done, where you make like a little slideshow. I think that's part of STEM. I'm not completely sure though, but thank you so much for coming.
I have a threefold answer to this one. You don't get to end on that note.
I do not get to end on that. No, I need to hear the answer to this one.
Well, so honestly, some of it is fold 2 is RSSI. So one is, I hate to come back to the learner portfolio again, but I really come back to the learner portfolio again. Part of it is a messaging board for students and parents. So all the scholarships that you're talking about being on the counselor page will be like right there and active, where it's alerting like, hey, here's a new scholarship. So it puts it more in your face than like having to go access it. And there's a materials board where even like applications and all that can be linked on the materials board. So it'll be part of the portfolio. The other part of that though is when you have like this running resume and this running archive of all the things that you can showcase in an application for a scholarship, easily accessible. That's one of the things we heard from students and parents was like, it's so hard to remember all the volunteer hours that I did 4 years ago, but it'll all be right there. So that's one of the goals, is that it's easier to do all of those applications through that. RSSI is the other one. So the Rural Student Success Initiative, where they come in and help you with FAFSA and applications, and they're bilingual. And so it helps overcome any potential barriers to getting that process complete. And they do it within the school day and then meet with parents after school too. And they even have a day where like parents can come in with the kid to figure out what all information do I need and do it together. So that's awesome. And then fold 3 is access. So we have our P-TECH programs now, where students can get an associate's degree for free prior to graduating with their high school diploma. So right now our health science program is our first P-TECH program, started with this year's freshmen. So those students who are in that P-TECH program will have an associate's degree and be able to leave as a certified medical assistant before they graduate as a senior. Next year, our business program and our education program will have the same associate's degree opportunities. So in terms of access and funding and all of that, like those first 2 years are already free then. Our plan is to expand that to every pathway that we have to have an associate's aligned with it. So we'll go from 1 to 3 next year, and then I think we'll have 2 more to add after that. And the other part of that is actually even expanding to our employees. So we are partnered now with a university called Hartwell, specifically for education. So we have employees who will be able to do like a completely asynchronous online degree. You have to be nominated by the school district to be part of it. Super affordable, super accessible to pursue a 4-year degree to be able to become an educator. And we have about 15 nominees who will participate in that orientation next Wednesday. So just trying to create access to opportunities, which is the other part of what I think our jobs are. So anyways, sorry to end on a threefold on the last question, but
It hasn't been anything better to end on. Just, I feel like if there's one thing to take away from this for all of our viewers watching, is there's a lot happening, and every year it's like a city. It builds on top more and more every time. I like it.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for coming. I learned a lot more about my school district than I thought I would.
Well, thanks for the opportunity. It's honestly an honor. We're appreciate it.
And thank you for being our second guest to come out again.
I'll come back anytime. Y'all do a good job.
I've been your host, Aaron Cartwright. Thank you for watching BVP Production. It's a great day to be a Brahma.